Okay, and we are live. Welcome to a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast. Once again, I got Logan with me. Logan, how you doing this week?
Doing pretty good. Got a nice week of gaming ahead, hanging with dogs. Life's good over here. How about you in Britain?
Pretty good. I mean, cold weather. So like basically the rest of the year is going to be like this, other than the 1 month in summer which you get. But other than that, it's been a good week. And for people that are just tuning into the show now, for some reason YouTube's counter on my end starts twice. So if in future episodes or in this episode, it just sounds like we're talking at the beginning of the show rather than there being an intro. That's why YouTube's having some weird back end issues. I apologize. It is what it is. There's nothing I can do about it. I'll try and do something next week to mitigate the problem. But until then, we've got a good show planned, a lot of cool topics. But until then, Logan, what have you been playing this week?
Honestly, I've just been no lifing Avowed. That's basically all I've been playing this past week. And man, I love that game so much. Like, it is so good. As somebody who grew up with classic Obsidian, Knights of the Old Republic 2 was their first game, and first game I ever played from them. Adore that game. And, I love Dungeon Siege, which is a lesser known RPG from them. That's like kind of like an old D&D type as well, squad based and dungeon crawler. And then you've obviously got Alpha Protocol, which is a little rough around the edges to put it lightly, but it has some really cool ideas. Basically trying to go for the Mass Effect but espionage
Yeah.
type RPG game. And then, obviously Grounded is really good. Fallout New Vegas is fantastic. They don't miss. And Outer Worlds is great as well. So I've just been pouring a ton of time in Avowed. Absolutely love it. I'm convinced that the internet just has derangement syndrome,
Yeah.
just like they did for Starfield, because like at a certain point it's like people whine about all these different things, and then when things come along that actually have these things, then it's like, well, it was this way or that way, or that they start attributing things to it weren't that aren't applicable. They start saying it's isn't this one game, which it said it was never going to be that game to begin with, and just a whole bunch of stuff, and then people trying to attach ideologies and philosophies to some things in there that, I mean, as someone who is decently tuned into the world of, you know, outside of gaming and stuff, it doesn't seem that blatantly obvious to me, but like people just seem to be trying to attach all kinds of things to it, and it's really annoying. But because I love the game, and so many cool references, I've seen Annihilation reference, Frankenstein Quest was really fun. Knights of the Old Republic 2, I saw Darth Nihilus painting where he's like this crusader in black armor, and he's got this red huge claymore. And they even have a wizard Cartman, which is hilarious, for Stick of Truth, painting in a similar place. And just so many fun teases with their achievements. And my goodness, the decisions and the crazy stumble upon stuff you can do in that game. Like, I was just minding my own business, goofing around, and this side quest ended up being incredibly important to this campaign. I won't get too spoilery, but basically, I found this hidden cave behind a waterfall, and turns out it was like some whole invasion force. And so I ended up just on my own taking out this whole thing, and come to find out that was actually a really big deal that I didn't know before. It's just crazy. But enough about Avowed. What have you been up to, man?
I've been playing a bunch of different games. Metal Gear Solid 3. Let me tell you, I had the biggest, possibly, I was embarrassed that this happened. So, for people that don't know, I've played through Metal Gear Solid 3 possibly like 20 plus times. Like, I know that game. I talk about Mass Effect a lot because I'm crazy obsessed with that series, to the point where I'm literally obsessed with that trilogy. But like Metal Gear Solid, I love those games. I've played them a lot. And, Metal Gear Solid 3, I've been playing almost once a year for the past 20 years. Be it the original version, the Xbox 360 version, and the HD collection, and now with the Master Collection version, which is 4K 60, all that stuff. So, there's a segment in Metal Gear Solid 3 where you have to make your way through this very dark cave, and it's possibly the darkest section in any game of all time. And for the past 20 years, I've been wandering aimlessly through this dark cave just to find the exit. And it must have taken me maybe an hour and a half each time because I refused to look at guides. So, fast forward to a few days ago, or last week, and I decided for the first time in 20 years, I walked off to a different direction inside this cave and picked up a torch. And I was able to see all my surroundings. And I had the biggest facepalm moment of my life because I've made this game, this particular section, unbelievably difficult and annoying for the past 20 years. And the answer was right in front of me the whole time. Like,
yeah, I hate it when that happens.
Like, I don't know what. Like, I could have easily found a guide over the years, but I refused to. There's some games I will, but man, that aside, the Master Collection volume I'm really enjoying. I mean, not having that yellow filter which we were talking about last week, it's very nice to not have that filter, and it's nice in 4K. That game looks really good in 4K. There's some assets where you can tell, yeah, this game's definitely from like 2004, but other than that, it's brilliant. I mean, we're getting the remake later this year, and it's a 1-to-1 remake. The stuff I've read recently about that, I'm just getting really hyped about it. But yeah, Metal Gear Solid Master Collection Volume 1, they better come out with Volume 2 this year at least, because I want to play Metal Gear Solid 4 on an Xbox with an Xbox controller and achievements, and I want to see... Honestly, I think 90% of the reason I want Metal Gear Solid 4 to come to Xbox is just to see people's reaction from it, because the cutscenes in that game are so long that literally you could watch a feature-length movie during one of those cutscenes. It's crazy. Like, people complain about Metal Gear Solid 5 not having enough cutscenes. You basically have 50 hours of gameplay in about half an hour of cutscenes. Well, in Metal Gear Solid 4, you have about 9 hours of cutscenes and maybe 40 minutes of gameplay. I'm not even...
That's a season of a show.
Yeah, like, I'm not even exaggerating. Like, that's how much gameplay is in that game. You basically have boss fights and small walking sections, but I love that game. But anyway, I've been playing the Master Collection, almost done with that. I've been playing Death Stranding, little by little, really enjoying that game. And I've been playing Avowed. Now, I was going to save this segment for later in the show, but you know what? Screw it. We'll talk about it now. So I've been playing Avowed. I'm really enjoying it. I've been taking my time with it because, for people that don't know, I've been dealing with bronchitis for 3 long months. And I've been having a lot of respiratory issues, so playing games in long stints hasn't really been, that easy on me. Well, with Avowed, I've been taking my time, and I'm loving this experience. And, I went into this as, like, look, this is an Obsidian RPG. It's a hub world / region-based game. And my takeaway from it is that it's an Obsidian game. But for some reason, a lot of people on the internet went into this collectively thinking it's going to be like Skyrim. And I don't know why. It's a Pillars of Eternity game. So why do people go in thinking it's... like? Do you know what I think it is? I think it's normie behavior. Right? People saw a first-person fantasy game and they thought they were getting Skyrim. It's not Obsidian's fault. It's their fault, right? It's like when normies say that Star Wars and Star Trek are the same, even though they're bloody completely different. This is that.
Oh, yes.
But
don't even get started on that.
Yeah.
That's
But like, and as a fan of both of those franchises, let me tell you, they are not alike in any way. At all, other than the
they're in space. That's it.
Yeah, the in space and Paramount is messing that franchise up. But Avowed, I'm really enjoying it. I mean, one of my big takeaways from this RPG is that it respects your time. It doesn't feel like I'm being pushed to do, slog missions. You know, when you play something like Assassin's Creed, like Valhalla, beautiful game, excellent combat, but it feels like there's a lot of filler quests. Well, in this, it doesn't feel like there's filler quests. There's a quest early on, and I won't spoil what it is, but there's a quest that you can get early on, and you talk to a woman that's standing next to a water fountain, and it's not even highlighted as a quest. It's just a small quest about someone's relationship, and you have to deliver a letter. That's it, right? It's not listed as a quest, and when you get this quest, the item doesn't even appear in your inventory. It's just like there. And I think it's really cool that you can discover all these things. And one of the moments that blew my mind straight away is that I walked into this cave after doing some sort of side mission, and there was a side quest that popped up called Dawn Treader.
Oh, yes, that one.
And this is a completely optional side quest that most people might even miss. And it has huge ramifications, apparently. From what you can do in that, quest, there's clearly big things that's going to happen. But one of the choices you can pick in this small side quest is that you can die, right? That's one of the options. You can basically let the game off you. And I thought that's just such an original thing. And I thought it was, I don't know, it felt really good to have just a side quest in an RPG that felt unique in its side quest moments. It didn't feel like it was wasting my time. There was no filler. Even when you do bounties in this game. Let me tell you about bounties. A lot of other games, bounties are listed as side quests. And you go and click on which side quest you want to do, and then it's highlighted on the map. When you activate all bounties in Avowed, the icons stay on the map the entire time. So if you're underleveled and you want to stay away from a certain enemy, that is on the map the whole time. So it's constantly letting you know that, hey, maybe you don't want to go here. Can you see that enemy over there? There's 3 skulls above the dude's bloody head. Maybe not step there yet. Well, Avowed, it has lots of cool moments like that. The combat, the moment-to-moment combat in this game is excellent. And I'll put it out there, it absolutely washes Skyrim's combat. Like, if people want to do a comparison, we'll do a comparison about combat. Skyrim's combat is kind of clunky. In this, it's not. Third-person combat, it works really well. But first-person, when you use magic in the grimoires, just super cool effects. And there's even passive abilities that interact with the environment. So you can have this ice spell, which constantly puts this like ice shield around you. But if you walk onto water with this ice shield, it creates a path on top of the water. And it's just lots of cool moments like that. And I absolutely love the game. Is it perfect? No. Is any game perfect? Hell no. But, like, that's what I've been playing. Now, back to Avowed for a moment, because, again, I was saving this topic for later in the show. The way people are acting online about this game is kind of disgusting. No matter what anyone posts about this game, people are getting riled up, angry, triggered, just by people's enjoyment. Like, Logan got the Steelbook, right? There's a huge community of Steelbook collectors online, and it's never a big deal when anyone gets a Steelbook. But he got crap for buying the Steelbook of Avowed. And Steelbook's not coming with a disc isn't anything new. In fact, EA started it with Dead Space 2 back in, 2010? Like, so it's been going on for a long time. And, like, people are just consistently angry and trying to pull people down on for enjoying it. And the thing is, it's not like it's a badly rated game. It's a extremely positive game in its reception, reviews. People seem to love the game. And according to, Xbox and people at, Obsidian, people have, responded well enough to the game that they're considering, moving forward with it as a sub-franchise. So, like, why is everyone angry about Avowed? Is it because there's pronouns at the beginning of the game? Well, guess what? That doesn't even matter. 1, you can turn them off. 2, no matter what you pick, everyone calls you the same thing, Envoy. So people are angry for no reason. It's 2025, and we have these rage bait accounts, and they will get absolutely, like, angry at everything. And it's got to the point now where these people, they are crying wolf. They are finding fault where there is none, and they're making a big deal about it when there isn't one. And like, I've posted videos of like someone will reply to me, and I just post a clip of Avowed using magic or something, and someone will reply saying this game's made or it's trash or they call me a name for playing this game, and I go on their replies, and they've spent their entire day, their entire weekend, in their spare time replying to other people that are playing Avowed, calling the game made, calling them names, and I've tried to point out like people are acting abnormal about this, abnormal about people enjoying the game. For some reason, Avowed's got people riled up, and like Logan said, it's this Starfield derangement syndrome. People are angry, and it doesn't make any sense. Like Logan, you have to admit, like for some reason with Avowed, people are crazy.
Yeah, it maybe it's just something in the air right now, but it seems like any of these big RPGs that come out that have customization and have character choice and all this other stuff that has always been there, or some slight variation they've added for accessibility options or whatever, is just getting these people hot and bothered and in their feelings about stuff. And I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. People were over the moon that you could bleep around with a bear, for crying out loud, in Baldur's Gate 3, and a whole bunch of like a whole bunch of stuff in that game that would really raise your eyebrows, and a whole bunch of customization, and plot lines and tropes and all kinds of stuff in that game, yet everybody's praising it. But then as soon as this one comes out, or Starfield comes out, basically there's the whole Xbox tax thing. I think it's overplayed, but there is something about these being exclusive that just gets these people so butthurt about everything, and then they just look for problems. Yet, you've got Baldur's Gate, you've got, other RPGs that are not exclusive, or action games, or customizable games that have either pronouns or physical feature changers, or whatever you want to say. You put in there that it makes some people mad, some don't care. For some reason, these are the ones that are getting attacked and dragged down more than others, and it's just really interesting. And like like I said, like as someone who considers themselves fairly in tune with, the climate and stuff, it's like there doesn't seem to be anything just blatantly just in there that is trying to push certain things or anything like that at all. Like maybe that's just me, maybe I'm actually naive, but it makes sense narrative wise and quest wise and story wise, some of the things that I encounter that are like, oh yeah, this place is having some problem with this, and so I'm dealing with it. That doesn't seem like a forced thing they're trying to pigeonhole into the game. It actually makes sense for this narrative. Like I think people are just riled up and looking for problems and looking for fights to pick where there shouldn't be, and there aren't any. It's a great game. Obsidian themselves said the people they care about like this game, that the users are overwhelmingly enjoying the game. It's been received well critically. So basically, the voices that matter, and Xbox above all, are all very pleased with this performance. So we can be getting DLC expansions, sequels. Like, so far so good, and yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, I've just been checking online to see the game's Metacritic score because I couldn't actually remember. It's an 81. It's an 81 on Metacritic, but everyone's acting like it's a 1. Like,
Acting like it's Redfall.
yeah, like with Redfall was controversial. I'm doing air quotes at its release because it was missing certain features and it wasn't the immersive sim people thought it was going to be. But like in the end, they gave it a 60 FPS patch. They put in a bunch of features which people wanted, and that's that. But with this, like the number one thing people want from this game is a photo mode. like that's how good of an RPG. There's some other features, I think a new game plus. I think a new game plus mode should be basically in everything.
It should be default
Yeah.
for RPG for sure.
And that's stuff they can add. If I remember correctly, I think The Witcher didn't get a new game plus till after the game came out, but
Yeah, like a year later.
yeah.
Yeah.
But like it's kind of like a normal thing now, and I don't know. I feel like people are being like overly toxic, and I don't like using the term toxic lightly, but my God, like someone just post a picture of anything on their feed related to Avowed, people are angry. Screenshots, trailers, and it, like you said, like the Xbox tax thing is getting a bit overplayed. I don't like to say the Xbox tax is real. I really don't. But if we're talking about Avowed, it's so true. People are angry, and it doesn't make any sense. And like VG247, I can't remember the name of that outlet. They put out an article about 2 days ago saying how someone's created a mod, and this was secondhand embarrassing. Someone's created a mod for Avowed on PC to make it seem like you're playing it on PlayStation. Like that.
I mean, okay.
That was just sad, but just the rage bait over it, it's overplayed. People are just going over the top with it. Like this year is going to be an amazing year for video games. We kick off the year with an RPG like Avowed. People are loving it. Actual gamers are loving it. A new Yakuza game came out, and it's about pirates in Hawaii. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 came out. People are loving that. Super realistic RPG, very hardcore RPG. And like the variety this year for video games and RPGs is phenomenal. And people are whining about crap that doesn't matter. It's silly at this point. And like, look, I don't even want to mention the pronoun thing because people are getting angry about it, but it's not even in the game. If you pick male or female, he, she, whatever, the game never refers to you as that. They refer to you as Envoy every single time someone talks about you. So it doesn't bloody matter. It's just, I don't know. I think the anger online about it, it's really annoyed the hell out of me because on Twitter, I post screenshots, videos. I average upload about 400 megabytes of video to Twitter every day. And whenever I post about any other game in particular, people are completely fine with it. But if I post about, for some reason, first-party RPGs, set people off. If I post about Flight Simulator, nobody has a problem with it. If I post about an RTS game...
Oh, fantasy, they love.
Yeah. Forza, people are fine with it. Especially now, they're fine with Forza clips. But, like, Avowed, Starfield angered a lot of people based on nothing. It's a Bethesda RPG, and it's more of what people liked about Bethesda RPGs. And, Avowed isn't... Do you know what's weird, right? And I saw this tweet before, and I think a lot of people listening may have seen this. So, in Avowed, this isn't really a spoiler. It happens at literally the second you start the game up. In Avowed, you are an envoy for the Emperor. You go to the Living Lands, and you have to basically figure out what's going on. There's this fungus that's like growing out of people.
Among
yeah, it's growing out of people and like animals and stuff, and you have to figure out what's going on. That's the base plot of the game, right? So your objective is to figure out what's happening to people and save them. And people are online complaining that you can't kill people's sheep. That you can't go around, slaughtering people in the town. I'm trying to be careful with the words I say because, this website's a wonderful place, but oh my, I have to be careful with words. But like people are surprised that you can't go around being the worst person alive, even though you're sent to this new land to protect people. That doesn't make any sense. And these rage baiters, and I'm calling them rage baiters, It's constant attention flow. That's all they care about. They don't care if a game's good or bad. And they're all talking about this Mecha Break game, and I actually think Mecha Break looks fun. A lot of the robot designs are clearly based off Gundams. But like that game looks good. But why are they all hyping it all of a sudden? Is because you have attractive characters. And that's what people are boiling down good or bad games down to now, right? Will Mecha Break be a game people play in 6 months and talk about fondly? We don't know. Will people be talking fondly about Avowed in 6 months? I think so. I think when it comes to the award season, this will actually be a talking point because it's a damn good RPG. But we're in a weird world at the minute when it comes to video games, politics, and there's this weird overlap. And if you follow me on social media, I don't talk about this stuff. I hate talking about this stuff. And in fact, I try to never even mention this stuff remotely at all on this channel. But yeah, Mecha Break, Mecha Break. I keep saying Mecha Break for some reason. All I'm saying is, Avowed, it's a good game. And look, is it perfect? No. People are completely okay to dislike the game. Maybe they don't like fantasy games. Maybe they don't like the third person camera. That's all fine. If people want to have their own opinion about it, that's cool. But people are taking their own opinion, seeing someone else enjoying the game, and they feel the need to reply. Do you know what happens when I'm scrolling down my feeds and I see someone post about a game that I don't like? I continue to scroll. I don't care. There's a lot of people, I'm sure this is the same for Logan, there's a lot of people that were posting about college football last year when that came out. That game was huge in the US. 99% of my followers are from the US. 99% of the people I follow are from the US. And all I was seeing was college football clips. I wasn't sitting there getting angry about it. Like, how dare these clips be in my feed? Like, I don't care. Let people enjoy what they want. And just, for some reason, these games set people off. It's stupid. I don't know. We'll move on, but I feel like it's gotten to the point now where some people have told me they don't even want to post their own clips now because of the backlash they're getting. So people aren't allowed to show what they enjoy, and I think that's terrible. I post multiple clips every single day on Twitter, and I like doing it. I'm going to continue to doing that, but it's just really sad that some people have been really put off from doing this because of the negative stuff people have said online. Anyway, we'll move on. We've still got a lot to talk about. You know what? We've got a bunch of good topics today, and I also have another rant about Monolith later in the show. Now, Logan, you want to talk about this? New cloud games are being added to Xbox Cloud.
Yeah, kind of just like it seems like they're starting to do like they did with the old BC program, where like every week or two, now they're adding a small batch, which is really good, and it gives you something to look forward to, and I'm happy about it. And most of the titles were ones I had or were interested in. And it almost seems like someone listened to the show because they actually added a Metroidvania that wasn't in Game Pass that I had recommended on the show last time. Blasphemous 2 is coming to cloud gaming if you own it. And they've added Gris, Bolt Gun, which is a fantastic boomer shooter set in the Warhammer universe. And the character actually ties into Space Marine a little bit, the story. And they had a Gris and Maneater, which is a fun shark RPG, where you go around and you're the shark and you mutate and you become this just like insane laser eyes shooting radioactive alien shark thing that just goes on wanton bloodlust rampages. It's so much fun. It's the game you always wanted when you were 12 on the PS2 or whatever. And they made it and it's cloud available. And they had several others, but mainly just wanted to point out that it's good to see that they've got a regular cadence. It seems like they're listening to people now for suggestions, so keep them coming. And as always, something I've noticed is it's kind of like when the BC program was going, that if you saw some titles randomly show up for sale on the 360 store, then there was a decent chance they were going to be announced BC soon. And lo and behold, it seems like games that are leaving Game Pass, they're trying their best to keep them cloud available for people so that they can buy them on discount before it leaves and then play it and own it going forward on the cloud if they want. And I just think that's good news.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of doing it. When they start doing this, a lot of people start asking online, like, are we going to get these huge lists? Because when the BC program first took off, like we were getting a small list once every few weeks, and we would all look forward
Mm-hmm.
to this new BC batch. But then Major Nelson must have just got sick of it and said, "Screw it, we'll just announce them when they're ready," type thing. And I think that's the best way to
Yeah.
do it. That way they could just regularly drop them. And Cloud must have taken off a lot recently because I'm always seeing pictures of people either with streaming handhelds like the LG. I can't remember what's called, but the white LG streaming console.
Yeah, that's what I got.
And I keep seeing people with the Razer, iPhone handle things. So clearly, a lot of people are using cloud. I mean, I use cloud outside the house sometimes. It's kind of weird how mobile phone gaming has kind of changed over the years, where we used to have games like Snake back in the day, and then there was like sort of like early flash games on like the Sony Ericsson I used to have, and then in the early 2010s, like a lot of mobile games were trying to emulate what consoles were doing. You had a Dead Space game on iPhone, which was actually a really good Dead Space game. There was a third person Mass Effect game on iPhone. There was Infinity Blade. These really
That's
high.
so
Yeah,
good.
that was so good. Like, it was these high quality mobile games, and then for some reason in like 2013, these mobile phone companies were like, you know what? We can put out these games where all you have to do is match 3 gems, and that's all mobile gaming's been for like the past decade. And now you can play full on AAA games on your iPhone from the App Store, such as like Death Stranding and stuff, or you can play your console games or PC games via the cloud. So just goes to show how far mobile gaming's changed over the years. But yeah, own games. Hope they continue to bring more soon because I love the fact that I'm going to be able to play something like, I don't know, Hogwarts Legacy on my mobile just if I want to. Cloud. A lot of people might be scared off by cloud, but hey, it's just another option. The funny thing is, it's like once every 2 years or something, there's always this article that goes around where people predict that, the next generation of Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo, it's going to be a streaming device. I'll put this out there. I don't think a streaming console is going to be a thing for at least 20 years. Like, people's internet can be way too spotty. Hell, I don't have internet on most Thursdays. You know, damn you, Sky Broadband. But yeah, more cloud stuff, always a good thing. Anyway, we'll move on. You know what? This is actually a pretty big topic. Oh, no. So, for the past 2 weeks, I've had a particular rant about a particular game, and this is a game franchise that you can find on Xbox, PlayStation, PC. I'm not sure about Switch. And it's called Outbreak. Right. I've
Oh, I saw a new one.
Yeah, I saw that one as well. So I went onto the Xbox Live store yesterday and I thought, I'll see if there's any cool new indie games. Why not? And I swear to God, in that first row of games, there was a new Outbreak collection of games. So for people that don't know, Outbreak is this Resident Evil ripoff where it looks like they are using assets from the Unreal Engine store. We call them asset flips. And they pump out a new game, I think maybe once every 17 minutes, and they come out with a new bundle and put it on the store every single week. And it's to get these games at the top of the store. So for the first page that you see on Xbox Live, you're going to see an Outbreak game. And there was a new collection there yesterday, and I swear to God, if people maybe around 8 p.m. UK time just heard this scraping sound, that was my eyeballs rolling into the back of my head, right? I'm fed up of seeing this Outbreak collection, or Outbreak in general, right? They are garbage Resident Evil clones. and they have the audacity to use AI art, not even good AI art, not even like Grok I've been using for the past week. That's good art, right? They're using some back alley crap AI art where like there was a woman holding a gun and she had 7 fingers on one of her hands. Right? I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure that's not normal. Anyway, I'm getting sick of this. I really hope there's something that can be done about it because, like, if anyone has multiple like screens open right now while you listen to this, just go on Xbox Live or PlayStation Network, and you're gonna see an Outbreak collection within the first 15 seconds. It's crazy. Like they keep getting away with this. Who's buying these games? I don't know. I just wanted to talk about it because I'm going crazy. You know what? Let's talk about the big one that kind of went live a few hours ago, and that is Warner Brothers Games Shakeup. You know, Warner Brothers over the past few years, they've had some ups and downs. In 2020, they were going to come out with their very first E3 showcase. Right, it was going to be a huge deal for them, and as you know, in 2020, things kind of happened.
Shut down.
Yeah, like we had the toilet paper apocalypse. My God, can you believe that still happened?
My gosh, yeah, like people had storage units where full of toilet paper, hand sanitizer, Lysol, and then like they end up getting raids done by government officials because they're hoarding resources and scamming people. It got insane.
Yeah, so like we were gonna have a absolutely packed E3 where you had Microsoft have their own show, Nintendo with their own show, EA, Bethesda at that point with their own show, Ubisoft, and Warner Brothers. So it was going to be absolutely packed. But no, we get everywhere gets shut down. We have the toilet paper apocalypse, and what an absolute mess. And in that time, Warner Brothers they had a lot of games cooking, but none of which we saw at that point. We had Hogwarts Legacy. We had Gotham Knights. At that time, we didn't know what that was going to turn out to be like. There was the Justice League game and a bunch of other titles. And, over time, they've released these games to varying degrees of success. Hogwarts Legacy, despite it being, I'm doing air quotes, it being a controversial game, it was the best-selling game of 2023. I love Hogwarts Legacy. Highly recommend it to people that, just want an action RPG that's about magic. And that was a great success for them. But every single game they've came out with since, they've had a mess. Gotham Knights, let's be honest, we all wanted a Batman Arkham Origins sequel, which is what they were originally working on. And, we got that Justice League game last year. Like, Logan, can you believe that Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League only came out this time last year?
That's hard to believe. I mean, that that thing came and went like in the wind. It did not do very well. It got destroyed in the, reviews and just the dialogue, everything. And then the whole basically, oh, we finally released an update. And not only did we release an update to, fix some things, make it playable offline, but now we're going to make it to where the whole story was basically like it never happened. So it's wild.
Yeah, and they've had some major ups and downs. Like Rocksteady, one of the best in the industry, in my opinion. Like granted, Arkham Knight has its problems, and it's mainly boss fights. But outside of that, it's a damn good game. Arkham City is the best superhero game of all time, in my opinion. Arkham Asylum. Like, by the way, can you remember how Arkham Asylum had next to no marketing? Nobody was talking about it, and I remember there was an Xbox Live demo for Arkham Asylum, which got a lot of people to get interested in it for the first time, and people fell in love with Arkham Asylum. Like, it wasn't just some okay superhero game. It was a mind-blowing experience, and before that, nobody was talking about it at all. Nobody cared, and it put them on the map. And then they come out with this, Suicide Squad game, and nobody cared. Like, that started development when Fortnite kicked off. When all these companies were like, oh, wait, they're doing this Battle Pass situation. What if we can do that in our game? And yes, that game does have a Battle Pass. It's a single player / co-op game, and it feels so weird. And, the combat's so disconjointed. And there's things about that game I do like. I think the open world Metropolis is gorgeous. But outside of that, like, not having melee combat in an Arkham universe game, it felt so weird. So anyway, misstep after misstep, misfire after misfire. It turns out today we got some really bad news. And that is that Monolith, the creators of Fear, the excellent Fear game from 2006, I believe, and the Shadow of Mordor games, they are being shut down, and the Wonder Woman game that they're working on is cancelled. Absolutely heartbreaking. Like, I feel sorry for the whole team. Like, they've been making this game for 4 years, I believe. And for people that don't know, this was essentially going to be an Arkham-style game, but with the Nemesis system involved. And they were going to use the Nemesis system for enemies and allies. So you could basically create allies in the game based off sub-storylines you've gotten yourself involved in with just random enemy encounters, which is really cool. And it's a system that hasn't been put in any game since, which is weird because it's one of the most interesting systems that's came out in the past generation. But yeah, that's all gone now. So 4 years of effort down the toilet. And that you've got to feel sorry for that studio because they had huge success with Shadow of Mordor. And then when the sequel came out, Shadow of War was like a launch title essentially for the Xbox One X. Right? There was so much hype for that game, but they put a monetization system in Shadow of War, which basically made it so the game would push you to buy this in-game currency rather than fight enemies. And there was a huge backlash about it. People hated the system. Like, it's a good game. Like, there's a good game there, but like the monetization system, it was a joke. Thankfully, they patched it out, but it took about 4 months to patch. So like this, I think there's been so much spending behind the scenes. Like, apparently, like hundreds of millions of dollars have been spent. Hundreds of millions of dollars being spent in development for this game, and like I was looking forward to Wonder Woman. I thought, it's a cool premise. You have the Nemesis system in a superhero game. It was going to take place in Themyscira and New York, or like whatever version of New York they had in this universe. But yeah, what a shame. What a shame. And, they've been around for... This year would mark their 31st anniversary as a studio, and they've been shut down. Warner Brothers, they're going through a bunch of different, issues at the minute because, like, Hogwarts Legacy was the best-selling game of 2023. And the head of Warner Brothers 2 years ago was actually talking about how the next Hogwarts Legacy should be a live service game. Thankfully, it doesn't work there anymore. But that was his magical brainwave idea. And yeah, what an absolute colossal disaster because, like, look, this could have just been an Arkham Asylum game where you just play as Wonder Woman. I would have bought it, right? And throw in the Nemesis system, it sounded like a cool idea. But unfortunately, we're not getting that now. Logan, what's your thoughts? Because it kind of shocked everyone today.
Yeah, this came out of left field. I was not expecting this. Like, if you had told me that Warner Brothers was going to shut down a studio, like, I'd been okay. I can understand that, given who their leadership is, some of the decisions they've been making, wanting to cut back gaming, and with the Squad game having recently come out, I would have assumed Rocksteady would have been the one with their head on the X-Men, but nope, Monolith, which is surprising, yet if you're trying to cut big costs and you're in development and maybe they don't see a soon release for this type of game to just end it, I get it. I don't like it, but I can at least maybe understand from that capacity to where kind of like with Microsoft when they apparently killed that um like that Blizzard survival game that they were working on that had been in development for ages. Like maybe they just didn't see a clear runway for that to go forward, so they just axed it and started on something else. Maybe it's something like that. But considering it's Warner Brothers, it's hard to really give them the benefit of the doubt. These are the same people involved with HBO Max and HBO and all that, and TNT. Basically screwed TNT out of having NBA coverage for a while, which was made a lot of people mad because they loved their sports show, the way they handled coverage of stuff, and the fact that they've written off so many cool films and shows as tax write-offs when they were like finished and ready to show, and basically wasted everybody's time that was involved in those and deprived people of getting to see a really cool product. So yeah, they're not really high on everybody's like list right now, and this just adds more to it. So I mean, good luck, because you say you want to focus on Mortal Kombat, Harry Potter, and Game of Thrones as your franchises going forward. Your next Game of Thrones game, you had the broad idea to make just a mobile game instead of a cool console game as well, or something like that. And then Mortal Kombat is, Mortal Kombat, you know what you're getting. And then, Harry Potter, I have high hopes for the sequel, but if you're still going to be dealing with, knuckleheads online about it, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, Hogwarts Legacy 2, even though we haven't seen a single frame of footage, we all know there's going to be the made-up controversy again for that, so we can put that to the side. If they make another cool single-player game, they're going to be all right, but my God. By the way, considering it's not available over here, didn't HBO Max remove its own content?
Yep.
That's crazy. Like, that's crazy.
Yep. Several shows just went poof.
Like,
gone.
Can you if that's like if Stranger Things was removed from Netflix, like that makes no sense. Like you own the bloody thing. But honestly, I do think Warner Brothers is going to be sold off in the next year or two. There's been too many mess ups. Not just the DC stuff, but basically everything. I honestly believe that in the next couple of years, Universal Studios or Netflix is going to buy them. One of those two companies. Because there's just
Universal and a merger would be really interesting.
Yeah, I mean the main reason I think they would be a good fit is because they don't really have any television shows or stuff like that, and they could also use basically Warner Brothers content as their theme park stuff. There's a bunch of different avenues they could do about money, but yeah, Warner Brothers games, what a mess, what an absolute mess. And the thing is, I just saw in chat a few minutes ago, and he's got a point. Shizno is that, like, look, I've been saying I just want more Batman games, right? It's a proven formula. Feed me more. Like that's all I want. But the truth is, people will complain and say that it's more Arkham games. Gamers are fickle. They are very hard to please. And look, the live service thing that isn't going to work for a DC game, But a Batman game, look, I think he's the number one streamer in the world right now. Kai Cenat, absolutely huge on Twitch. Yeah, I remember seeing people wanting Microsoft to purchase Warner Brothers. That was a weird time. Who knows? It might still happen. You never know. I mean, nobody could have guessed that Microsoft would purchase Activision. That happened. Same with Bethesda. But the number one streamer in the world right now, Kai Cenat, put this huge production together to live stream the Arkham games, which he's never played, right? And there was maybe 119,000 people watching him play Arkham Knight last night. And I was actually looking at a lot of the replies a lot of the comments on Twitch, and I was actually shocked of how many people have never even like seen this game before. So like, there's a lot of eyes on the Arkham series at the minute. There is an Arkham game in development right now. Allegedly, it's a Batman Arkham Beyond game. Now,
Oh man, that'd be so sick.
now there was a Batman Arkham Beyond game in development. I want to say about 10 years ago, and it was cancelled. Apparently, it wasn't far through development. It was just concept art, early development stages. But allegedly, that's what they're making now. Now, if that is the case, hands down, it'll be the best game ever. I think a lot of
Take
people.
my money now.
Yeah, I mean, the way they end Arkham Knight, you can do Batman Beyond with that, and I think people, especially after Cyberpunk 2077, people are ready for more Cyberpunk games. Batman Beyond has a lot of nostalgia at the minute, and I honestly think that's the best course of action. We can't have Kevin Conroy, unfortunately, and who knows? Maybe we will actually see, the developers of Gotham Knights make another Batman origin story, because, or I should say, a Batman Origins prequel. It's weird, the naming convention, but what I'm going with all this is that Warner Brothers listed Batman as one of the things that they concentrated on at WB Games, not just DC. So they labeled Hogwarts Legacy and Harry Potter, and then they listed Batman underneath. So I think that, we're basically going to get Batman games basically only from them from now on. Now, to me, look, I want more of Batman. I'll buy more of Batman. That's all they have to do for me. But Shiznor was right. What if people will just come out and say, oh, it's another Batman game? Like, oh, do you think people will come out and do that? I do think people will complain, but it's what we want at the end of the day.
I think if it's good, people will like it. Of course, I would say the same thing about several of the games that have come out recently. It's like y'all said you wanted more Bethesda. Y'all said you wanted a fantasy, this RPG, and then people whine about it. So I don't know. I think the people who are really attracted to those games and like those games will be really happy. And I think maybe the Fortnite TikTok brain casuals might not be, but I guess we'll find out.
Yeah. I just, like, whatever they put out, I just want it to be good. And, like, I can't imagine a world where Rocksteady gets shut down. I don't want to imagine that world. But, hey, I mean, this is Warner Brothers Games. They are the ones that decided to put out Mad Max, the video game, the same day as Metal Gear Solid 5. My God. Like, what were they thinking? And by the way, for people that don't know, do you know the Mad Max game was originally going to get multiple single-player expansions? Nope. We didn't get that.
Very depressing, yes.
Yeah, the game came out, nobody bought it, and the funny thing is, like, now, these years later, it's on sale all the time, and it's an absurdly fun game when people talk about it. People love that game, and which is kind of funny because you fast forward a decade. My God, it's been a decade. The roles are reversed. Metal Gear Solid 5 gets crapped on from a mile-high height, right? And Mad Max gets glazed to the point where people love that game so much and talk about how they want a sequel. By the way, I would buy a Mad Max sequel. It'll never happen, but I would buy that. Anyway, we'll move on. Still have like 14 topics left. But yeah, Batman, we are going to get a new one. It's honestly, if you look at Arkham Knight and how long that took to get made, I'd be perfectly fine if they come out with a game that's graphically on the level of Arkham Knight. It doesn't need to be hyper-realistic, with all the different features Unreal Engine has now. Maybe they can make it faster. I'd happily buy something pretty soon. Unfortunately, we live in a world where the next Arkham game might come out in 2031. Yes, the years sound too futuristic at this point, but yeah. Anyway, so where are we at now? Okay, so this kind of leaks. It's kind of been an open secret for the longest time. Tony Hawk was on some podcast recently, and he was talking about how there is going to be some sort of Tony Hawk game coming out. And then in one of the new Call of Duty maps, there was a blatant advertisement for a Tony Hawk announcement labeled 3/4/25. Now, this is where I got confused because, again, US dates look differently. So this is the 4th of February. Oh, sorry, the 4th of March, 2025. And basically, about 4 hours ago, Tony Hawk 3 and 4 remake got got rated in South Korea. So basically, we're getting a new announcement in the next 2 weeks for Tony Hawk. So 90s fans, early 2000s fans, rejoice! We're getting those games now. I loved Tony Hawk games back in the day. I was mainly a fan of American Wasteland. But I'm happy to see these older titles come back. And if you've seen the previous remakes by Activision, I think it was Virtua Studios that made them. They are bloody gorgeous remakes of those original Tony Hawk games. Logan, I know you're excited for this one, and I think you're the one that actually told me about this, but it's happening.
Yeah, I'm so excited for this. I love Tony Hawk. Like I said, I don't play too many sports games or I'm not too big into skateboarding, but I love these games. Something about it was just a vibe. And it was just I love them. The soundtracks are incredible. Like if you ever want a time capsule of that era of music, play the Tony Hawk games. And it's just fantastic soundtracks. I loved all the full tricks you can do, collecting the VHS tapes in the hidden areas, all the random things to get collectibles, the customization, the boards. I love those games, and Vicarious Visions did a fantastic job with 1 and 2. So I'm excited that it looks like they partnered with Iron Galaxy to do 3 and 4. And this is not, this isn't a report. This is my guess. Is that they kind of took the mantle on what Virtua Studios, Vicarious Visions had already done on 3 and 4 before they got merged into Blizzard and took it from there. That would be my guess because of how quick this has come out. Or maybe they started from scratch and just they're really on the clock and they got it done fast. But I'm super excited for it.
Yeah, and this is basically going to generate interest for a new one because that's that's why a lot of these remasters and remakes happen. See if there's still a fan base willing to buy them, then they'll put money into a new one. And look, it could be a big year for skateboarding games. That's a weird thing to say in 2025, but Skate 4 is in development. I believe that's been in development for 3 years now. So who knows? It could be a huge year for skateboarding games. There's also a few indie games coming out this year that are also skateboarding titles. But man, I really hope Activision bring back more older games. I'm obviously
Which one had the? Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No, continue. Sorry.
I was gonna say which one had the Darth Maul character that you could unlock. I couldn't remember which Tony Hawk that was.
I want to say 3, but
okay, yeah, man, I hope they have that in there again.
yeah, I do remember it was either 3 or 4 that had some cameos. But I mean that's the problem with those games. They are very much a product of their time. Even if it's just music, you have jackass characters show up in some of them. I think I played as Steve-O in one of the American Wasteland games.
It fits. He's always cracking his skull anyway.
Yeah,
so.
And you know how much of a weird time that was for skateboarding games. So if you got Metal Gear Solid 2, I think it was Substance. I think that's the version it was called. There was a level where you basically play as Snake and you're skateboarding on the big shell. And there's no other way of playing that game unless you have the original version from the original Xbox and PlayStation 2. And that was basically an advertisement for Tony Hawk 3. So, yeah. weird times, but hey, I love the fact that all these older titles are coming back. I mean, look, I was going to mention this anyway, and I'll mention it again. I want these bloody Transformers games to come back. like,
You're not the only one, man.
the thing is, I talk up these Transformers games all the time. For some reason, I never got to play them back in the day, and they are right up my alley. They are single-player, third-person shooters, and they came out when I was obsessed with Call of Duty multiplayer. So, like, I missed out on a ton of games. It's one of the reasons why I've loved backwards compatibility, because I get to play. I've played so many games I missed during the Modern Warfare 2 Black Ops phase I had. And those were 2 games I missed out on. Like, I have, bit of a tangent, I have literally sealed copies of those Cybertron games right here, waiting. But considering Microsoft hasn't made a move in the ABK department when it comes to PC stuff, I'll take full-on remasters. I'll pay for them because I've been talked. Weird thing, right? So these were late 360 third-person shooters, where the first one had a multiplayer mode, and there was a multiplayer mode also in the there was a multiplayer mode in the demo, and I played that. Weird time for video games, but yeah, I just want more older games brought back. What can I say? Anyway, we'll move on.
There's hope that, for Transformers. That side note, but apparently Saber, who did the excellent World War Z and Space Marine 2, are partnering with Hasbro to work on one of their franchises. So putting 2 and 2 together in their skill and expertise, maybe a Transformers game.
You mentioned the Hasbro thing, which is actually going to be one of our next topics.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that now.
Yeah.
So for people that haven't played it, Warhammer 40k Space Marine 2 by Saber Interactive is pure, unfiltered joy. Like it is a Xbox 360 era game to a T. It's borderline perfect. It's just action focused. There's no fluff. There's no, how shall I put it, bloatware. It's literally you have a campaign mode, you have a co-op mode, and a multiplayer mode. And it just feels like a very 360 era game. And hell, that game sold so much that Saber Interactive had to change as a company in a good way. And the fact that they're going to be working with Hasbro, by the way, I 100% think it's going to be Transformers.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
unless it's Power Rangers, which I don't think so.
But like Transformers is basically kind of Hasbro's biggest property outside of Power Rangers. Now that I'm thinking about it, I would like a 90s Power Rangers game as well.
Oh man, yes, go.
Yeah,
let's do it.
I'll take anything at this point if it's Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, Transformers, basically that nostalgia. But Transformers fans were left in the wind because we were promised Transformers Reactivate, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, with that CGI trailer, and there's been a bunch of leaks since on Twitter, and no game. But if it was them making a new Transformers game, my God, I think that would make so much money. Think about this: Warhammer 40k is possibly the nerdiest niche sci-fi property on Earth, and they made a mega hit based on the nerdiest property on Earth.
They made it cool.
Yeah, they made a nerdy sub property cool. People love Space Marine 2, and most people that played Space Marine 2 have literally no idea about the 40k universe. I'm one of those people. I've played maybe 10 40k games. I have no idea about that universe. I just like the games. I should really read the books, but it's an interesting universe, and they made a really cool game that showed it off. Plus, that game is a power trip. But if they can do that with their tech, because they have their own proprietary engine where they can basically highlight hundreds of thousands of enemies on screen, I I 100% think they're going to make a Transformers game. I think they're really well suited for it. All you have to do for a Transformers game is make a third-person shooter where there's maybe some vehicle sections. That's it. Easy peasy. I'm saying development's easy. I know some people might not like that, but you know what I mean. You know what? We'll talk about this. So this went live the other day, and this is the IGN showcase for ID at Xbox. Now, I thought it was a decent show, mainly because of the games they had there. And they had a bunch of games announced there, or shown there, that are going to be coming to Game Pass sometime this year. So first up, they had 33 Immortals. It actually finally has a release date, and I believe that's coming out in March. Balatro. This is a huge game, by the way. I've never played Balatro, and I'm not really the biggest card game person. Like, I've been to a casino twice, and I play blackjack. That's it. But Balatro is some sort of roguelite that's based on poker. Is that correct?
Yeah, it actually got me hooked. Like I love that game, and I didn't know how to play poker beforehand, but now I actually like the idea of playing that, not for gambling purposes, just for fun. But yeah, it's super fun concept I never would have thought of, and it's a blast.
Yeah, so Balatro is now in Game Pass. Went live last night, I believe. There's another game called Blueprints, which is coming to Game Pass. I think that comes out in June. I'll have to double check. But that's kind of like a first-person adventure game. This game was announced for Xbox, right? And I've been asking the developers for maybe a year and a half, please bring this game to Xbox. It's called Buckshot Roulette. Now you can kind of guess.
Oh yes.
Yeah, you can kind of guess what the game is just by the name. But basically, you play Russian roulette with a buckshot shotgun, and you can play against like Satan and other players, and it's just like it's such a cool idea for a game. And yeah, that's coming to Game Pass. It didn't have a release date, but it did kind of insinuate it's coming out this year. But hey, super cool looking game, and I think that game in particular will be huge on Game Pass because I can imagine couples getting into arguments with that. That'll be amazing. Oh yeah, and when it comes to 33 Immortals, for people that don't know, it's an action RPG where you can play with 33 players.
Isn't it Hades-esque, basically?
From what I can tell, it's kind of like Hades, but I mean, it's a cool concept. And if it's launching in Game Pass, you're basically not going to run out of players. So hey, going to be a cool game. The next game they showed was Descenders Next. Now this game is coming to Game Pass in, let me check, April. And Descenders was kind of this mountain biking game. It launched in Game Pass, I want to say 3 years ago. The developer had huge success from it to the point where he's actually been featured in a bunch of articles talking about how not only was this game in Game Pass, more people were buying it because it was in Game Pass. So he was one of the few developers coming out basically saying how, hey, people still buy games. Well, he's basically launched all of his games since in Game Pass. Clearly having some success with it, but this one's called Descenders Next, and it's got a bunch of new sporting types. So there's snowboarding, I think there's like a wakeboarding thing, there's skateboarding. It looks really cool. Next up is Echo Weaver, which is kind of this action RPG. Looks pretty cool. Next up we have, I'm trying to see what this is called, Ultimate Sheep. What the hell does that say? I can't make out the rest of the word, but an action adventure game. Moonlighter 2, The Endless Vault. All over the place with these names. That looks really cool. A sequel to, let me see. By the way, if it sounds like I'm all over the place today, is because I downloaded a bloody stupid low-resolution image off Twitter. I'm trying to read the names. Yeah, so Revenge of the Savage Planet is coming to Game Pass in May. And for people that don't know, Journey to the Savage Planet launched on Game Pass, I want to say 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, and it was a first-person sci-fi action-adventure game with Metroidvania elements. Well, basically, this is the sequel, and it's third-person, but you can also play it in two-player co-op if you want. It's actually a really cool-looking game. Next to nobody's talking about it, because there's not much known about it, but yeah, third-person sci-fi action-adventure, it looks super cool. Next up, we have Tanuki was it Tanuki Pond's Summer? Now this is a weird looking game.
You're right. Tanuki Mailman.
Yeah, so you play as a Tanuki mailman, but there's also BMX style moves in the game. um, it's a very unique looking game. Not much to say other than that. Although I do want to play it, and it's also launching in Game Pass. Next up, we have Tempopo. My God, who names these games? I don't want to be mean to indie developers, but sometimes some of the games' names feel like they've literally had a dartboard of just random words and vowels and just thrown darts, drunk, blindfolded, and they've came up with some of these names. Don't know why. It's weird. But anyway, some cool games coming to Game Pass. I think a lot of people will like some of these, especially Descenders next. That's probably one of the biggest games announced there. Now, one of the games that was on the ID at Xbox Showcase, which isn't coming to Game Pass, and probably the biggest game that was there, and it's called Jump Ship. Now, for people that follow me on Twitter, I've been talking about this game for maybe a year. It looks so bloody cool. It's a single-player / up to 4-player co-op mission-based action game set on a spaceship where basically you complete missions, fighting robots, getting objectives done, and you can have one person piloting this big starship and have 3 other players on the hull shooting at robots. It's a cool concept for a game, and that's coming to Xbox this year in early access. Now, there was the Annapurna Interactive Showcase, which I haven't seen. Logan, was there anything interesting there?
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head what was shown there, but I know there was a Windows Central article that came out and had the list. It was, I think To a T was one of them, and let's see, here we go. Pull it up.
Because I missed all.
Wheel World is a game that is a bicycle game made from the Nidhogg developers, and they get on a bike and you just roll around and you listen to chill music. That sounds alright. There's a game called Wonder Stop, and then To a T are the ones that are coming to Xbox. That was just another showcase that happened to be the same day.
Yeah, so bunch of cool games, and the show is live and video on demand for people to watch right now. You know what? Let's talk about this quickly because it was actually a big topic and nobody's really talking about it. And that's Xbox Muse. Xbox has created this, or Microsoft has created this like AI program that they. It's weird because when I talked about it on Twitter, I talked about backwards compatibility. The article doesn't list it as backwards compatibility, but basically, when Microsoft came out with the backwards compatibility program in 2015, they said that they can't get all games to work. That's why some games have sequels that aren't backwards compatible. That's why not some obvious games aren't backwards compatible. And, there's also license issued stuff, with racing games, music games, all that stuff, especially skateboarding games. Well, basically, they're going to be able to use this AI program to preserve games, so we could potentially get games back which they couldn't make backwards compatible. And there's also games that have came out in the past which the developers have lost the source code. This used to happen all the time in the late 90s and early 2000s. A developer would make a game and they would essentially delete the master code from the PC or server because they were moving on to something else. Don't know what they were thinking when developers did this. Maybe it was to save up server space, but this happened all the time. And basically, it looks like, I saw some developers against this, some for it. Look, I don't think AI is going to be this mystical thing that ruins people's jobs or take away people from the jobs, right? I 100% see AI as a tool, right? For my personal use, I use AI tools to upscale things for thumbnails, right? And I'm not taking a job away from anyone. There's not someone I would be paying to upscale an image for me because they would also have to use an AI program. So for me, it's a tool. And for a lot of developers, it can be tools, but there's this subset of people online that they think that everything's going to be taken away by AI. You know, Terminators are going to come out. You know, Skynet's going to be real and all that stuff. Although it doesn't help that I saw this robot on Twitter the other day and it has muscles. That doesn't help the argument I'm going with. But basically, being able to bring back older games that can't be backwards compatible, I think it's a bloody fantastic idea. Right? So many games have been lost to time. So many master code of games have been lost. Like, this is a really good thing. I don't think how it's going to take away from developers because I don't know. I'll use Tony Hawk's American Wasteland as an excuse, right? Let's say they lost the master code for that game, and somehow they could get that game to run on modern pieces of hardware, and licensing wouldn't be an issue. Rather than have a developer make a whole new version from the ground up, taking up money and resources, they could have this AI tool to make the game playable on modern devices. I think that's bloody genius. Is it going to be perfect? Probably not. I mean, we've seen AI mess up in the past when it comes to things like text and what characters can look like, but it's going to be refined over time. It's interesting technology, and personally, if we can get more old games back, so be it. Let it happen. I mean, the future does involve a lot of AI and a lot of different, aspects of our lives. I mean, hell, people have been using Siri as part of their life and Alexa for years, and that's AI. So people don't have a problem with that, but for this, people have a problem with. I think that's silly. Logan, we talk about backwards compatibility all the time in older games because we live in the past. Like, what was your take on the whole Muse thing? Because even though it isn't backwards compatibility per se, it means that we could get a whole lot of older games back.
Yeah, like I think it is a form of backwards compatibility and preservation because they Phil Spencer and people at Naughty Dog, or not Naughty Dog, excuse me, big difference. Ninja Theory. Sorry, I was thinking End Studio. They collaborated on this using a basically defunct game now, Bleeding Edge, where it's for all intents and purposes like you can just play it if you want, but there's not much happening there with that community game, all that. And so they had the idea that we would take this dormant game and teach an AI on it. And basically, the AI also made new game modes and new features and things for the game. Like, not only preserving the game, but learning from the game and developing content for the game, in the game, which was super cool. And then they're talking about using it to preserve older games and bring forward. Like, I can think of like several things off the top of my head that, for some reason, maybe technologically there were some problems before, but they could work around. Like, you remember, like, I think it was Steel Battalion on the OG Xbox that had this like unholy abomination of a controller
Oh yeah.
or something that had like all these like, imagine using Muse to get something like that running on modern hardware to where you could use a more simplified controller. Like, you could do something like that and make it where people can play that game again. You could, do the Dino Crisis type games, or, you know, Silent Hills, or kind of, you know, upres some stuff and tweak some stuff and get it to where you can get it on modern platforms, or even if it doesn't upres it at all and it just makes it just playable as is, I would be thrilled, because the main thing I want is preserved titles and games so we don't lose the experience, and that we get to share them with people going forward, and that they're not lost to the ages because of some stupid clause in a contract, or because of some arcane tech and hardware that it doesn't exist anymore, or a studio got shuttered 20 years ago, or the contract was written on paper and nobody can find it. Like, those are some of the reasons why some games don't happen or aren't preserved. So the idea that they can use AI to help with that, mitigate that, or make that not an issue is music to my ears, makes me thrilled. And I understand that people have concerns with AI. I think AI, unsupervised AI without guardrails, full blown, just like pie in the sky society where all these people just get together and go nuts with it, that could lead to problems. But if you have it in a, you know, curated environment with guardrails, you know, people that know what they're doing working with it, it's not evil. It's just technology and a power you can use. It's how you use it that makes it good or bad. And I don't think it is some malevolent force that is going to just steal jobs. Could some companies use it instead of some people? Yes. But they could also do it to where, say, a studio like Obsidian, like if they wanted to bring back Alpha Protocol, like say there's some licensing issues where it's only on GOG and it's nowhere else, and they can't get it for whatever reason approved to go forward as is. But for some reason, this Muse thing could work, find a workaround to get it to work, or they get approval through Sega and they could do something with it. You could have an AI team doing that while you're working on Outer Worlds 2 and Avowed content and other stuff to where it doesn't take extra manpower. Like, I don't see it as this evil entity, and frankly, this might make some people mad, but I just think in general, devs cry wolf a lot more than they need to, and kind of just whine about a bunch of stuff and pretend it's unique to their industry when a lot of other industries deal with the same problems and you don't hear them whine as much. Like
Yeah,
layoffs and crunch, for example.
yeah. I mean, look, we live in a world where we have AI assistants on our phone. We have robotic hoovers. You know, nobody bats an eye. Hell, GPUs use AI to generate frames. Nobody complains. Where's the people complaining about the RTX? 50. Is it 50 something? Yeah, the RTX 50 series. Like, are people complaining that AI is making fake frames instead of developers? Like, I'm not seeing that much from developers. But it's just because of this. People are losing their marbles, and like, look, how many games have been lost to time? There's one game in particular which I don't think there's any way of playing it on any modern piece of hardware outside of emulation and stuff. Um, and that is a game that came out in the early 2000s. And it's called Prisoner of War, and it's such a niche game. Most people don't even know it exists. It was a World War II game made by Criterion, and basically, you were an American. I think you were an American pilot. You crash in Germany in World War II, and you fight a plane, and you have to escape a prison. But as soon as you escape this prison, you get put into a bigger prison, and then you do the same thing about 4 times. You constantly get caught because you're terrible. But the whole premise of the game is you have to escape 4 prisons, each one bigger than the last, with more options. It was kind of like reverse Hitman. The game gave you a bunch of different variables, and you had to figure out how to escape this prison. Super interesting game, way ahead of its time, and that game is lost to time. Most people will never get to play it or even know that it exists, and that kind of breaks my heart a little because that is such a unique game to the point where nobody's tried to make anything like it since. Like, this was a AAA level for the time with third person camera and stuff, and like there have been some like indie prison escape games since, but nothing like this. And maybe with this AI thing, we could see this game come back. I would love that to happen. AI is just a tool, I mean, hell, I keep talking about Lost Odyssey, and I would love that maybe we could get a remaster at some point with some quality of life
Mhm.
features. Maybe don't have the first boss in the game absolutely kick your ass when you try your best, right? Maybe have some
Blue worm.
yeah, that blue worm. I've got PTSD after that. Bloody hell. Um, But like maybe come out with a Lost Odyssey remaster, use a tool for that, and come out with some, I don't know, maybe a boss rush mode or an easy mode, or hell, even a normal mode, because that game is punishing beyond belief. But it's just a tool, you know. I hope we see this used soon, and maybe we were told about it recently because maybe they plan to use that in the next gen Xbox, because the Xbox Series consoles we have now, they are capable of AI, stuff. But maybe not on this level. We don't know. But hey, it's cool tech. What can I say? You know what? We still have a bunch of big topics to talk about. Okay, Doom the Dark Ages. We'll go over this quickly. And we got some good news. So basically, story-wise, apparently this game's taken some inspiration from Batman Year One. If people haven't read the comic or seen the animated movie, really cool origin story for Batman's, character. If people haven't seen the animated film, at least go watch it. Really entertaining film. But also this game is actually removing some of the things I didn't like about, Eternal. Doom 2016, I'd say, is peak Doom. The movement system, very simple. The whole game was built around circle strafing, which is what Doom's about. In Doom Eternal, that game is way too vertical. You have the double jump, you have the dash, and then you had the swinging mechanic. And I think that game, being as vertical as it was, there was just too many enemies at times, If you played Doom 2016, enemies are either in front of you, the side of you, or behind you. In Doom Eternal, they could be bloody anywhere, right? Which made combat scenarios way more intense. I'll put it like this. I played Doom 2016 on Ultra Nightmare difficulty. But when I got the sequel, Doom Eternal kicked my ass. like I got absolutely wrecked in Doom Eternal. And it is a harder game. Before I continue, we have the first super chat of the day by Adidas20 Zero. Thank you very much for the $2. He says salute. Well, that's very much appreciated. It always helps the show. And hope you're enjoying the show. But like Doom Eternal was punishing to me. Like, Logan, did you find Doom Eternal way more difficult than the first one?
Yes. I loved the first one. I loved Doom 2016, and I really liked Eternal as well. I think it did some things better than 2016, but I do agree that I think the combat and traversal stuff was like, like you turn it up to a 10 and it's like turn it up to like an 11 and like they just crank it and it felt like too much Spider Monkey on Mountain Dew type combat to me. It was like constantly running around like Prince of Persia mixed with, Doom mixed, with like got a dash here, left strafe, jump, up, run. Oh, there's this cyber demon trying to tear me a new one, and then I turn around and then there's, all these imps throwing fireballs, and then I try to jump down here, and then I constantly gotta keep moving. And it's like I understand movement as being important in shooters. Like generally if you're a sit and duck, it's probably not gonna go well for you in an FPS. I know summer franchises are different, but the way they did it, it felt like not, I don't know if stressful is the right word, but it felt more of a task than it should have. So I'm glad that they've gone completely opposite now, and they're like, you know what? You're an unstoppable killing machine deity. You stand there and you fight this dragon with your fists. I'm like, all right, I can do this.
Yeah, no, I'll say it. It was stressful. Like the difficulty jump from 2016 to Eternal was just punishing. But I mean, I'm glad they're getting rid of the double jump mechanic, and it's back to basics. So it does look like it's still going to have the clamber mechanic, and I think that's a must for games. I'm pretty sure OG Halo fans won't like the fact I just said that. But
you can run.
Yeah, but when it comes to Doom, like going back to basics, I think this works really well. And plus, the way they're going to use the shield mechanic in the new game, so basically, it's kind of work like Captain America's shield, but if he threw it somewhere and he basically teleported to where he threw it, I think the game's going to play a lot better that way. Apparently, in this game, weapons are going to be far more powerful, and this is one of my complaints about Doom 2016, and I love Doom 2016. You playing is the Doom Slayer, Doom guy, and you get like half your health taken away from you in 2 hits. Like, that shouldn't be how it works. I think that's why Space Marine 2 was such a success, is that you get hit a lot in that game, and your health bar just goes down a little because you are basically a walking tank, right? You are a 3-meter tall dude, and you're wearing a tank as armor, basically. And it was a power trip. I think they're going to do that with this game. I mean, hell, there's a Pacific Rim-sized mech in the game. So obviously they're going to want to make that power trip feel special. But yeah, everything we hear...
laser wing dragons.
Yeah, laser wing dragon with a minigun attached to it. I mean, what's not to love? But hey, the game looks fantastic, and it's only a couple of months away. So yeah. And by the way, the developers said multiple times now that they've moved away from doing multiplayer of any kind for this game. I think that was the best move. I really do. 2016 had an amazing multiplayer alpha. I don't even know if I can talk about this, but the alpha, incredible. When the game came out, things were different. Nobody played it. And then with Doom Eternal's multiplayer, I honestly, after all the gameplay I see on Twitter, I never saw anyone post clips of Doom Eternal multiplayer. I never even touched it. Alone, did you ever touch the multiplayer for Eternal?
No, I did not.
Like, that doesn't surprise us, but like the fact that nobody played that game's multiplayer, but leaning into single player, yeah, that's all we need for that game. Anyway, we'll move on. You know what? We have a bunch of big topics left. You know what? Let's talk about this now. So, Fable. Oh, by the way, I must be like some sort of like Nostradamus or something. So I have a habit of making a post on Twitter, and then within 24 hours, the company whose game I'm talking about delays the game. This has been happening for years. I don't know if it's
a harbinger of doom.
Yeah, like at some point I'm going to tweet something really controversial and it'll happen, and people are like, "Oh crap!" But basically, I was talking about last night, like, hey, we just got avowed, and Xbox still has 2 RPGs coming out this year with the Outer Worlds 2 and Fable. Good times. And then the second the game got delayed, I got a bunch of replies to that post saying, well, actually, Jamie, it's like, I don't own a bloody time machine, right? I wish I did, but I don't. But yeah, Fable has been delayed to 2026. Honestly, we all saw this coming. If any game had to be delayed by Microsoft, it was going to be Fable, right? The Outer Worlds 2, I predict, is going to be coming out in July. But, Doom, like, this year is front-loaded. The first half of this year is heavy with games. And I'm not saying Fable was delayed because of GTA. All I'm saying is, as someone that has a database of upcoming games, the second half of this year is bleak dry, right? September's got some games. In fact, GTA won't be coming out in September because, believe me when I say, 2K wants Borderlands 4 to sell really well. So, like, Borderlands owns September. We're all good for that. But, like, a lot of developers are not even putting out release dates yet because they're wondering when Rockstar's going to release their game, right? I might have my weekly rant about Rockstar games and Take-Two, but the truth is, it's going to be the best-selling game of all time. It's going to be the fastest-selling game of all time. It's going to generate $1 billion in 24 hours. And I've revised this multiple times. I 100% think GTA 6 is going to sell minimum 25 million copies the first week.
Goodness.
And I think that's lowballing it, to be honest. I think it could be a lot more. This has been a weird generation for delays. There's a lot of people still on Xbox One and PlayStation 4. It's not getting a PC release at launch, which I think is a silly move Take-Two's doing. They should do it on everything at launch. But my point is that I think that Fable moving isn't it isn't the worst thing in the world. I've had gameplay going on during the podcast. When the announcement happened, we got around 50 seconds of new gameplay for Fable, and let me tell you, that game looks bloody gorgeous, right? Playground games, they've never made an ugly game, right? All their Forza games, beautiful environments, but this is a big game for them because this is their first RPG. They've never made anything like this before. Thankfully, they do have talent. There's people that worked on Red Dead Redemption, Grand Theft Auto, God of War, Uncharted, and other big games are working on this Fable game. So it's in great hands. But like this new team, the RPG team, clearly know what they're doing. This world looks beautiful, and this is going to be the first open world Fable game, and that shows. Like, the environments in this game are stunning. Like, Logan, what did you think of the gameplay shown? What do you think about the delay? Because I don't think it actually surprised a lot of people.
I actually haven't watched the new clip of gameplay yet, but as for the delay, I'm not shocked. I mean, it felt like this year was pretty stacked anyway, and if you had the bump one, like let Obsidian have their moment with two RPGs, and then let bump Fable to the next year and give them even more time. It's their first RPG they've ever made. I have zero doubts it's going to be fantastic, but a little extra time in the oven isn't going to hurt. So I'm excited. It looks incredible. An open world one is going to be really interesting, and yeah, I just can't wait. I love RPGs, and honestly, even the tie it back to Obsidian again, but it blows my mind they have two full-fledged RPGs coming out in the same year. This is like 360 era vibes, like a little bit. Like the idea of like having Knights of the Old Republic and then the sequel come out like a year or two later, or like Fallout 3 and New Vegas within a short amount of time of each other. It's crazy. Outer Worlds 2 and Avowed in the same year.
Yeah, while I ramble on about Fable once again, Logan, check your DMs. I'll send you the clip.
Okay, will do.
But yeah, this game looks gorgeous. Like, one of my biggest worries for Fable for the longest time was would it actually retain the humor and still have what I've been wanting for Fable for like 10 years. Like, the poster's probably still on Twitter. Like, I've been saying for years, I want The Witcher 3, but Fable. Some people might not like that, but I just want that Fable humor in a whimsical world, but with essentially Witcher 3 style gameplay and storytelling. And this is what I got from that. Like, best possible scenario, I'm getting what I wanted. Now, the delay, yeah, it's disappointing, but I mean, like I say for other games, it's disappointing, but it's not the end of the world, and, the game will be better for it. It's going to be a stacked year, and we could be living in a reality where Microsoft's first game of 2026 could be Fable. Now, that's pretty sweet. What else can I say about it? There is some gameplay stuff that you can see in the trailer. I've got gameplay coming up soon on the video, but like, there's magic in the game, there's throwables, there's sword fighting, there's, I believe, a crossbow in the game. Like, this looks really good in action. I think for people that have been Microsoft have been needing to step up their first party, air quote game for a long time, and they've been doing that for a while now. People may hate on Starfield, but it's a bloody ambitious game. Indiana Jones, incredible game. Like, I've never give a Microsoft created game a 10 out of 10 before. Ever. People could say I'm a fanboy all they want. Never, ever gave a Microsoft game a 10 out of 10 until Indiana Jones. Hellblade 2 is pushing boundaries unlike we've never seen in video games before when it comes to visuals and using Unreal Engine 5. Like, nothing like it. And then you have this, and it's bloody gorgeous. Like, what they're doing is really...
Balverine is impressive.
Sorry, say that again,
I just watched the clip you sent me, and I was saying that Balverine or werewolf is like super crazy. It reminds me of like a werewolf in London or The Howling. Like, that is some realistic looking werewolf right there.
Yeah, Like it's absolutely stunning, that game. And Playground Games, I mean, they've never disappointed. They've never disappointed. The funny thing is, I have to dance around certain words, but people have been complaining on Twitter about certain things you can do in the new game, as in no matter you can base. So as far as we know, there is two protagonists in the game, male and female. But the truth is, we've always had that, right? Fable 1,
Mhm.
2, 3, male or female, but yet there was never a character creator, right? it, it, there's this sort of Mandela effect for gaming I've noticed over the past 2 years, where people have always thought there's a character creator in Fable. There never has been, right? People have it made up in their head. It's never been a thing. You've been able to pick a male or female, and then you could wear whatever you wanted, right? You could wear makeup, whatever clothes you wanted. Doesn't matter. Like, but I mean, hell, in the second one, you can get people pregnant and STDs. That's Fable too. But I'm trying not to get demonetized talking about Fable 2.
It's like careful there.
Yeah, I have to be very careful. But like a lot of the things they've mentioned that you're going to be able to do in the new Fable game, you could do in Fable 2. It isn't anything new. But again, you'll have the rage baiters online doing what they do. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be an impressive game. Let them cook, and it's still going to be an impressive year for Microsoft. I mean, there's essentially more games coming out this year that they haven't announced yet. I mean, it's all but officially revealed, and that's Elder Scrolls, Oblivion remake. That's been up in the wind for ages. It's meant to release by July, so we should be hearing about that at least in the next month and a half, 2 months. But like, if you're an Xbox fan and you game on Xbox, like, they are delivering games. And for the longest time, Xbox, they had they would release one big game every couple of years. It would sell well, and there would be these long periods of time in between their releases. But now, they have way shorter periods in between main releases, and the quality is way higher. Like, Logan, you finished Indiana Jones. What's your take on Xbox's quality and quantity that have gone up recently?
Oh, it's astronomical. It is so much better than it was when the Xbox One launched. Like the Xbox One had some good launch titles in that queue, but like for a while there was a problem with Xbox that one, they didn't have any games. And then two, if they did have any games, they weren't good games. Like I remember State of Decay 2 was not so hot when it launched. And Crackdown 3 was pretty, not wonderful. And there were several other high profile releases that were kind of duds or meh. And they focused on getting way better quality and performance and getting games to where they acquired all these studios and publishers. They've really, developed great stuff. Yes, there was still a Redfall to throw in there here and there, but for the most part, has been way, way better. Like if on average you're hitting in the 80s, you're doing pretty great. You're doing a pretty good job. And so I'm very happy with their game quality going forward. My only concerns about Xbox are, peripheral stuff that is wait and see, not game related.
Yeah. I mean, they're in a good spot at the minute. The funny thing is, I mentioned this earlier today on a Boom show. Oh, by the way, I just checked Indiana Jones and the Great Circle Metacritic. I had no idea. It's an 86. I had
Well,
no.
there you go.
Yeah, so like they've clearly upped the quality. And look, delaying these games, it just works out better in the end. Like, look, I've talked about how good Cyberpunk 2077 is. Damn good game. But when it came out, it wasn't in the best state, and they said that they basically launched the game when it did to make the quarterly earnings, right? So right now in 2025, Cyberpunk 2077 is regarded as this massively great RPG. But when it came out, I was accused of being paid. I posted about this on Twitter last night, but when the game was fixed in 22, I was accused of being paid off by CD Projekt Red because I posted 3 clips over 1 week. Right?
Did you get a yellow chair?
I wish
in
I
the mail?
did. By the way, I actually have that type of chair right now, but it's just the black stealth one. But I would have taken a cyberpunk chair. Why not? Bright yellow cyberpunk chair. If CD Projekt Red are listening right now, look, 2022 was rough. You had the game fixed, but Elden Ring came out. The anime came out in 6 months later, and then everyone started paying attention to the game. I was talking about your game in February. I would like a yellow chair, please. Please, those yellow chairs look cool. But yeah,
I just love the meme it became. The
Yeah.
yellow chair influencer. Yeah.
but like, the game's fixed. My point is, and people love the game now, and like delays, they work out for the best. Like you do have the rare instance where you have what was it called, Duke Nukem Forever, where they basically
Oh god.
the developers had feature creep where they would be making the game, some other game would come out, right? Some other game would come out with a cool new feature, and then they'd want to put that in the game. And then this happened, I think it was like 15 years in development or something, by the time that the game came out. And when the game came out, it was a mess. It had thousands of different gameplay mechanics, most of which used one. Like, the game opens up where you can draw on a whiteboard and you can throw poo around. Like, that's a feature in the game. Did anyone ask for it? No. Did anyone need it? No. But it was there. And they kept doing that for years, and that's why that game feels like a weird mix of game features. But yeah, the delay is fine, in my opinion. It will be interesting to see what their release schedule's like next year, because there's been all sorts of rumors that there's multiple Gears projects in the works. In fact, I think we know there's 2 Gears projects in the works. And like, look, we know about Gears of War E-Day. That's coming. I 100% think that's coming next year to line up with the 20th anniversary of Xbox along their next generation launch. But like, if you're going to release a Gears collection, it has to be this year. I don't think any other year makes sense for it. It'll generate interest for the next game. And even though I do think Grand Theft Auto basically owns whatever month, it releases in, I still think we're getting Clockwork Revolution this year. 100%. It was announced with gameplay in 2023, and it looked good. It looked smooth. And, In Exile, they're a weird studio because they're known for making a lot of memes on Twitter. They aren't known for their, I don't want to say good games because they've made good games, but like In Exile, they make really good memes whenever there's a new game release. But like, they are making a brand new first-person steampunk RPG with time-based mechanics, which is something we haven't really seen in an RPG like that before. But I 100% believe that game comes out this year. When people start wondering what game Microsoft releases late in this year, even though they have a stacked year already, people are just hungry for games, right? Doesn't matter how many they're coming out with. But I do think people are going to be happy in the end. Like, Logan, do you think Microsoft releases another game later this year?
Yes. I think that they will have at least one surprise at their June showcase for later this year. That would be my guess.
Yeah. But hey, man, like, next year, Microsoft could potentially be coming out with Fable, Gears, and potentially a Halo game all in the same year. Like, next year is going to be, like, this year already looks great for Microsoft in their first party releases, but next year, that should be something special. I mean,
what about Perfect Dark?
Yeah, Perfect Dark. I actually completely forgot about that. I mean, that game's been in the oven for, I think that game's been in development for about 5 years. And what we saw, was it last year? Yeah, last year, that game looked good. I mean, the funny thing is, I loved what we saw of Perfect Dark last year. Completely forgot about it. uh, I mean, they have the
Yeah, it looks awesome.
yeah. I mean, look, all you have to do is sell me on a Cyberpunk game. Is like, look, it's combining elements of Deus Ex and Mirror's Edge. I'm in. You know, uh, it will be cool to see what the reception's like, because most people that didn't know what an immersive sim was played Indiana Jones for the first time and were introduced to immersive sim elements. So like the masses are getting used to these gameplay elements now, and Perfect Dark, the new one, it's blatantly going to be an immersive sim. I'm all for it. I just love the diversity that's coming with all the first party games. Honestly, I'm 100% happy with their first party portfolio. I don't really deal with multiplayer. I don't play Halo multiplayer. I don't do Sea of Thieves multiplayer. I used to play at launch, but like honestly, for me personally, I'm perfectly happy with Microsoft's first party games. I will say this though, I do hope they revisit Activision IP, like we've talked about before. StarCraft,
Mhm.
allegedly there's a shooter in the works in the StarCraft universe, but honestly, I'm perfectly happy. Like, Logan, is there anything in the works or that we don't know that's in the works that you would like to see from Microsoft?
Well, I mean, that could take a whole another podcast, but yeah, there are a lot of IPs that Xbox has in deep storage freeze that I'd like to see back. Me and the 10 other people would like to see Banjo come back. I mean, there's I think StarCraft the shooter, make it like Ghost or even a FPS would be awesome. I definitely want that to happen. I think that they need to get it on consoles for sure. For get the older StarCrafts onto consoles, like Xbox. Just make it happen. You've got Age of Empires, you've got Age of Mythology, clearly running great. You've got Halo Wars 1 and 2 that did well on the platform. You can get StarCraft on console. So get StarCraft back on the console, make a shooter as well, get more hype for that franchise. Bring back Prototype would be another really fun IP from Activision that, is a superhero kind of world, but you're an anti-hero. Um that'd be fun for them to bring back. Tony Hawk they're bringing back. Bring back Guitar Hero in some capacity. Skylanders, the Toys to Life kind of stuff. Uh, Crash and Spyro. I mean, it seems a no-brainer that they're doing Spyro 4. Like that seems to be an open secret at this point
Yeah.
that Toys for Bob is doing Spyro 4. And the fact that they just are releasing a Spyro collectible of him skateboarding right around the same time as Tony Hawk coming back, and they're working on Spyro is just really fun timing. And yeah, there's a lot I want to see come back. Even Crimson Skies. Bring back Crimson Skies.
Yeah. The big one for me is Prototype. That first game on 360, I think it was 2009. I think when that came out, like that game shouldn't have been able to run on the console. You could run through like hordes of like hundreds of people, just cause an absolute river of blood basically. Hop in any vehicle, even like aerial vehicles such as helicopters, and just cause absolute mayhem. And I think we've never had a game like that since. Like you said, it was the anti-hero game, and I just think like with today's technology and the lack of open worlds, superhero games, especially what we have now, like there's such a market for that. I think it's stupid. I do think Microsoft having so many studios now, not just under Activision but as a whole, like they need to give some of their Call of Duty support teams their own games again. Like
Mm-hmm.
having High Noon Studios and Raven basically making Call of Duty maps. That's just a shame, man. like there's so much potential to be had there, and they have so many different universes. Like I keep talking about Singularity because look,
Oh, I want that one back.
yeah,
Yes.
and like for people that don't know, Singularity is basically BioShock, where you have a time manipulation glove, and it was so cool, and it was so ahead of its time. And the thing is, it was panned at launch, right, for being a Bioshock style game. And do you know what people praise it for now, years later? For being a Bioshock style game. So that's why whenever I tell people about it, it's like, no, it's like Bioshock. Trust me, it's good. But yeah, just so many studios making Call of Duty map packs. Maybe it's because I'm kind of out of the Call of Duty multiplayer circle compared to what I used to be. It just feels like wasted potential. Like, how can you take an impressive team that have made full games before? And yeah, it's been years, and developers have clearly moved on. But man, just every time I fire up a Call of Duty game, I play the campaign or anything, and I see those logos at the end, like not just Infinity Ward or Treyarch or Sledgehammer. Like when I see Raven in High Noon Games, it's sad. It's really sad. Like when you have Toys for Bob that worked on a Call of Duty map or whatever. Why do we have this in this universe? It's awful. But yeah, outside of that, World of Warcraft on console, that's blatantly gonna happen at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Blatantly. Granted, they're gonna have to optimize it for a controller, but it's possible. I mean, I don't know if anyone listening has played Star Trek Online. Let me tell you, those developers didn't even try to optimize it for a controller. I put about 50 hours into that game. It has the worst user interface of all time. Like, seriously. I would rather try and play a Mass Effect on a touchscreen with my feet than how good that game controls, or how bad it controls. Because, oh my god, that's not how you play an MMO on a controller. But other than that, I think Xbox, they have a good year ahead. It's going to be a good time. It will be interesting to see when they announce certain pieces of hardware, because Microsoft had every opportunity. They keep talking about a handheld, and they keep talking about next generation Xboxes. But yeah, it's a weird time. I think the climate for console gaming at the minute's been weird, because we have these studios, not even just console gaming, but just in general. You have these studios that are being closed constantly. And we've seen all these, mass layoffs at other studios. We see games getting cancelled. And everyone's saying, it's the death knell of Xbox because they're putting games on other platforms. And then we see what's happening in the rest of the industry, and it's a complete mess, And on the other hand, Microsoft is releasing first-party games on a regular basis. The one thing people have been wanting from Microsoft since they basically existed. So my point is that maybe people should step away from the doom and gloom. Like, if there's something genuinely we will need to talk about in the future, we will, obviously, have done in the past. But, my God, every time I open up social media or YouTube a lot, I see the death of Xbox, the end of Xbox. And it's like,
they've died so many times.
Yeah, I've been with Xbox since day one, since that huge original Xbox came out in the UK. And it had the awfully big controller, right? Stepping out in that Halo ring for the first time, there was nothing like it. That was mind-blowing. I remember when Splinter Cell first came out on the original Xbox, that in the tutorial section, the game teaches you that if you walk on different kinds of surfaces, there'll be different sounds and different levels of sound. That was mind-blowing to me. That if you walked on, broken glass, enemies could hear it. Literal mind-blowing at the time. And the way the lighting worked in that game, it was ahead of its time. You could burn your CDs to the hard drive because it had a hard drive. And by the way, when I got the original Xbox, I was given a memory card with it as well, because that was a thing at the time. Turns out I didn't need it, but that was part of the cost then. And look, we've been told ever since Xbox is going to be end. Hell, the original Xbox 360 had a 50% failure rate, to the point where Peter Moore had to tell Steve Ballmer that it's going to cost $1 billion to fix the problem, and he said, do it. So the 50% failure rate of the Xbox 360 didn't end Xbox. I don't think some multi-platform games are going to do it. Please. It's a bit overblown. And by the way, I never actually had a 360 that red rings.
You're a lucky man.
Yeah. Oh no, I've been told. I've seen people do the towel trick where you wrap your 360 in a towel. I never understood how that works. How your overheated 360 just start working if you put a towel around it. the laws of thermal dynamics must have just not worked with a 360 for some reason. But it is what it is. I had a broken disk drive with my 360. That was annoying. But yeah, Xbox, it's had its ups and downs. But for people acting like it's the end over some scary multi-platform stuff, nobody batted an eye when Lego Horizon went to the Switch. Nobody. But yeah, I'll just say that for now. Anyway, Logan, have you got anything else to say before we close out the show?
Yeah, on the multi-plat, one last thing is, like, honestly, I think, everybody talks about death of Xbox, this doom and gloom and all that. But honestly, this might be the best chance to keep it going. I mean, would you this is like a broad example, but basically this is like you know, the whole shooting yourself in the foot or spiting your own face like kind of thing about pride and all this other stuff. Like, if you can make sure that Xbox is around for decades going forward and you get all the games and you still have Game Pass, you get backwards compatibility, cloud, all these accessories, all these features and other stuff going forward, and consoles. Like, if they make sure that everything is at least at the bare minimum stays as is going forward, like that quality, and you can make sure it's around for decades, wouldn't you take that rather than like being this prideful or just like, well, I only want it for me, and then they run into problems and they need funding and it becomes an issue where maybe Xbox really does die. Like, this is a way to prevent that. And I know that might not be the most popular answer in the world, but I would rather, just like Alan Wake 2, for example. I'm glad Alan Wake 2 happened. Alan Wake 1 was originally an exclusive. Alan Wake 2 was multi-plat. They got the rights back. They made it, and I'm glad that game happened. And I would definitely take games happening over not happening. Multi-plat or not, just let's keep the good ride going.
Yeah. I think, it's just like people being reactionary and stuff. It'll all be good in the end. Anyway, everyone in chat has been amazing outside of, the one or two fanboys. It happens. Can't help it. I mean, hell, if people want to really anger people, just mention Avowed and mention it 3 times in the mirror. Someone will show up. Triggered, may as well at this point. Yeah. Bloody hell. But anyway, everyone in chat's been amazing. We'll be back at the same time next week. Depending on what's happening with my schedule, I would like to go half an hour earlier live just to talk about wrestling and random crap, the green room thing I've been talking about. But the show would obviously start at the same time, and then when the show finally renders, I'd cut out the green room. Same as usual. Anyway, I am going to try and get a video out by this time Friday, depending on what happens with my schedule. But hope everyone pays attention to the video. It's a fun video. I think people will like it. Anyway, we're back at the same time next week. We are out, everybody. Peace.